So last time I was dealing with samatha and vipassana, formal practice of meditation. Today I would like to continue that talk with closely related topic: thinking and wandering mind during formal practice of meditation. But first, let me speak about the whole area of concept, thinking, verbalization of experience, talking about the nature of concept. In Pali language it is called paññati, designation or the name for some actuality, for a reality. Very soon actually the concept began to be the representation of reality, which is not here at all, but still we can work with the concepts in the mind, with the bubbles. But the vipassana meditation will reveal the truth about the concept quite soon, that concept actually is representation, it is rather interpretation of some reality, very distorted one, very one-sided one, exaggerating. That especially the mind which goes wild, wandering mind, unchecked mind, unpurposeful thinking going on in our mind, that it is full of lies and exaggerations. I will be always like that, I will always fail, the thoughts have a hypnotic power on us, and really, repeating this type of thinking in our mind for a long time, it will bring us into the depression. So there is definitely a kind of a danger in conceptual speaking in our mind, this self-talking. On the other side, I don't want to also deny a positive role, especially in our culture. So much. It's a cult of thoughts and concepts, and the science, the technology has been so successful, and philosophy, well, successful, ideology, successful now. Now, in the meditation, let's be clear that the advanced stages of intensive meditation, formal practice, are free of concept. They will become free of thoughts sooner or later. Then there is a second layer of concept, which is non-verbal. I call it the notions. But, okay, samatha will end up with that. But vipassana go even one step further, to free the mind even from the second layer of concept, of all notions, and to see the reality as it really is. This is the direction of vipassana, gaining wisdom when we see the things as they are. And that's the strategy of Buddha, actually, to bring us there, because the healing will happen, important part of the healing will happen by itself, just to see the things as they really are. So, in the scope of vipassana, the concept is something which is actually preventing us to perceive the reality clearly, directly. It is like a disturbing kind of overlay about the actuality. You know, apple, I don't have it here, but apple and the word apple. The concept sometimes I compare with a black and white photography. You know, apple, colorful, smell, taste, juice, and the black and white photography. Concept and reality. Sometimes I am giving even more drastic exercise to the people. We can do it now. That's a good one. I will give sample number 1, sample number 2, and your task will be to compare the taste or quality of these two samples. For the duration of this short exercise, it's good to close your eyes. Please close your eyes. And here is the sample number 1. Now, sample number 2. The sound of Tibetan bowl. End of the exercise. You can open your eyes. So please compare the sample number 1 with the sample number 2. Or was it almost the same? Yeah. Or was it a bottomless, shoreless difference? Now, some of the psychology study are telling us that we are living our life 96-97% in concepts and thoughts and verbalizations of the actuality, and only 3-4% here and there we scratch the reality. Don't wonder that the life looks as it looks like. And should be clear that I am not against concept in our culture, in our time, in our life, even in the Buddha's teaching. The concept is serving very important role, and purposeful, wise reflection, yoniso manasikara, and the life, you know, the duties of the life. That's okay. But what I am really against is the proportion. You know, if it would be 50-50, okay, so much aliveness in our life, you know, so much real stuff. But when it is distorted like that, you know, 96-97% in verbalizations, in concept, you know, go back to this exercise. So it's true that any advanced meditation actually in the advanced stages is leaving the concept behind and emerging into especially vipassana meditation, emerging into this free-flowing living, free-flowing mind. You know, everything is open, fresh, no negativities in the mind. So quite sometimes it may happen in our life, but in the meditation it is even more pure, in the sense that we are developing this kind of free-flowing mind, original mind. On the meditation object, which is not accompanied by attachment, you cannot develop much attachment towards in-breath and out-breath or a sensation in your body. And yet, the Vipassana meditation can bring us out of these dense clouds of self-obsessive thinking, inner dialogue, inner monologue. We call it thinking, but actually it is usually talking to oneself. In the Vipassana meditation, this state we would call effortless mindfulness. The experience of that is quite comparable to a takeoff of an airplane on a dull, foggy morning, low clouds, a little bit rain. But airplane is starting, and soon you can see hardly anything under you. And as if the fog would even increase, airplane gaining altitude, then really flying into the cloud. Oh, that looks absolutely hopeless, just fog. But then the unexpected suddenly happens. The airplane gaining altitude comes above the clouds. Perhaps still few cushions of the fog flying against the window, but then it opens, this endlessness, this brightness, this beauty, radiant colors, and even the lake of the clouds under the airplane has its own beauty. And indeed, it is the quality of pure consciousness that by itself it is aware of itself. So the mindfulness is automatic, so to say. The Abhidhamma will call this stage Sobhana mind, Sobhana Cetasikas, beautiful mind. The scriptures will speak about Pabhasara Chitta, shiny, radiating mind. Some teachers will call it probably original mind. Ajahn Tiradama once brought a wonderful simile showing that the conceptualization is just a kind of a grasping, kind of a killing actually of the beauty of this free-flowing mind. And in the Vipassana meditation, at the advanced stage, it is so apparent. He would speak about a butterfly, flying around some flowers in the broad day, this ungraspable beauty and lightness of the things as they are. But when arises some kind of a wish or greed to grasp that, we grasp us after the butterfly, well, what remains in our hand is just dust. Killing conceptualization is actually killing the beauty of the things as they are in their own nature. So, what is the feature of this kind of a freshness and wonderful freedom or lightness of the mind? Is that it is dropping the obsession to the ego. This heaviness on our shoulder we are carrying with us all the time. This image, what we are, what we are not, attachment to this distorted self-image, how the things should be, and all this kind of mental baggage that will go. And this is also so important, to know what it means to be free of this slavery to the ego, to the thinking process, which can get into this spiral, rotating, depressive atmosphere in our mind, hopelessness and all these stages of mind. So I think clear enough, some of the thoughts may be very meaningful. The second factor of enlightenment is called Dhammavichaya, inquiring mind. The mind which wants to know, wants to see clearly, deeply. And when I was practicing in Burma, so I was bringing my idea, it's way back, many years back, and trying to present my idea that the Vipassana meditation should be absolutely free of any concept. The teacher was not quite agreeing with me, and showing this idea or this truth that second factor of enlightenment, Dhammavichaya, it can be even conceptual. In the retreats we have Dhamma talks, which are conceptual. You are not expected to meditate hearing, sound waves touching your sensory equipment, audible equipment, the hearing consciousness arising and passing away. No. The Dhamma talks are really meant to inspire our mind, and generally the purposeful, meaningful, wholesome thoughts have the power to give direction to our mind and to inspire, even to push us. But then, of course, then it should go. So even kind of mental verbal activity during Vipassana may be meaningful if it is not too much, certainly very sparsely used. In the time when our mind gets dry, juiceless, repetitive, boredom, we can still turn very much into meditation object itself. But when the interest in the Vipassana practice itself, we are losing it. So that's the time for some so-called yoniso manasikara, wise reflection about Buddha's enlightenment, about the freedom we have in our heart already, but we have no access to it. We can reflect our own death of the body, by the way. That would push us into more serious wakefulness and things like that. So there are instances in our practice when some little Dhamma talk with ourselves may be purposeful, meaningful, but very sparsely. Most of the thoughts in our meditation, in the intensive practice, are actually uninvited visitors, which are robbing us of the presence of the mind, and they are carrying us away into the world of fantasies, memories, plannings, imaginations, and disturbing our meditation, because at that time we are not aware of meditation object, we are not aware of the thinking itself, we are not meditating, we are fantasizing. So that's a distraction. So still there are several kinds of thinking or concept during our practice, and we should distinguish between them because we have to deal differently with them. There are thoughts which are as if appearing in front of our mind, and at that time when we are fully in the thinking, we are not aware of the meditation object. That's the hallmark of this type of wandering mind, or even purposeful thinking. You know, we are not aware of the given meditation object. So the advice how to deal with that, good advice: become aware of the beginning, when the intensity of mind on the meditation object starts to fade. This is usually the sign. What will follow is some kind of thinking and wandering and lost and 5 minutes away. So catch it in the very beginning. Later, at least, become aware of it when it ended. In the method of Venerable Mahasisara, you know, noting wandering, and coming back to the meditation object. The good golden advice is: become aware of the thought process itself. Oh, that's the big one. But that's difficult. And you need already quite some skill in the meditation, because it means to be disinterested in the contents of the thought, what it is thinking about, and you will step back with your mindfulness and you will just see the thought happening. Oh, that's not easy at all. And but you should try, because this is actually, at a certain level of vipassana practice, this will become very much possible, and it will reveal so many things. You will see the mind when it is working, during. You know, it's like looking in the engine of the car when it is running on a highway. How it is working, all that. So become aware of it. The general, you know, for both types of meditation, samatha and vipassana, in the initial stage, the instruction will be: replace the thinking with the meditation object as often as possible. You know, this is the beginner instruction. And indeed, to develop solid stability of the mind using a rudimentary, simple, primary meditation object, this is a very good foundation for the advanced stages of the practice. There are teachers who are starting with observing the mind, or even with the choiceless awareness, you know, everything open, whatever happens in mind and body, be aware of that. Yeah, it's a very nice practice, but it may become difficult to progress with this type of undeveloped mindfulness. The clarity is probably not very sharp in that case. The classical way is to use a rather bodily meditation object in vipassana, and to develop the full clarity of mindfulness on that, and only then to start to widen and open it, include more and more into this field of mindfulness, into the scope of mindfulness, applying this newly discovered detached kind of non-reactive mindfulness without grasping, you know. And if this is not developed, so the higher practice then may become problematic. Well, that's my take on that. In samatha, there is vitaka vichara even in the first jhana. Vitaka is the mental activity in your mind to direct the mindfulness towards the meditation object. Vichara is to holding the mind on the meditation object. Vitaka vichara being even in the first jhana. But let's be clear that from the second jhana onwards, second absorption onwards, there is no verbalization whatsoever. And samatha practice actually goes on with the second level of concept, which is not non-verbal, completely non-verbal. Even the first jhana, there is a discussion going on if the vitaka, this directing the mind, if it is meant to be verbal or just notions in your mind. Okay, vipassana has a little bit more space for wholesome concepts. There is even a meditation technique. Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, Burmese master, developed a strange way of meditation, vipassana, labeling the experience itself. People usually don't like it, trying to argument, even more concept bringing into my mind. Well, you will certainly not be attached to that kind of labeling, thinking, hearing, seeing, pain, itching, planning, remembering. No, it's a masterful technique to actually step from the experience and interrupt identification with the experience, and to see it as it is taking place, as it arises and passes away, seeing it as it really is. So thoughts and wandering mind, which is taking place in front of our mind. Some people have rather pictures. They don't have so much thinking itself, but they have lots of visual distractions, pictures or videos, imagines like vivid dreams, daydreaming. It's the same. It's the same interruption of mindfulness on the meditation object. Again, golden way would be to become aware of the seeing. Not being interested in the contents of these videos and pictures, which are so alluring, or repulsive, both. The wandering mind as well can be beautiful fantasies or nasty imaginations. There's both types of attachment in both directions. Be careful. So we are dealing with that absolutely similarly. Come out of it as soon as possible. Become aware of it will be the golden rule for the little bit more advanced practitioners. Then there is sometimes these thoughts are a little bit transparent. So there is a certain residual awareness of the primary meditation object, but some thinking coming at the same time over the meditation object. So it's a divided awareness, not very good. The instruction is bring more interest into the primary meditation object, into the observation and experience of the primary meditation object, so that these clouds of thinking will subside. Another case are heavy thoughts which are reoccurring during the retreat. There are so many sittings during the day, and basically in all sittings always something particular reappearing, blocking any progress in the meditation. So the teacher may invite you to sacrifice one sitting to deal with that particular whatever it is, and to take decision, kind of a solution for the time being, during the sitting, a part of the sitting, or perhaps even the whole sitting. But you will have only one sitting in the whole retreat, so be clear to work hard at that time. There may be some emotional, repressed things manifesting in your mind, in the wandering mind. Psychological contents, or karmic unresolved stuff, whatever. And during this particular sitting you should find a kind of a solution for the time being. For example, oh yeah, this relation problem, and to see it with the help of the Buddha's teaching, with the forgiveness, with the compassion, with the wisdom, with this possibility to take a bird's perspective, like the cosmonauts looking at the earth, you know, seeing it in much wider context, but keeping consequency as well, you know, not to be foolish. It may even happen very well that in the meditation repeatedly will appear some of the central topics of your life, something which is still open and clearly waits for your clear attitude or even for a clear decision. And you know that it is central and it will influence the whole of your remaining life. And actually this can happen in the meditation, but it can also come during your life, in your normal life. And for this magnitude of kind of a life topic, I am recommending reflection of your own death as a great help, which will throw a purified perspective on that topic, on that particular step. The time of your dying connects you with the seriousness of your heart. It will change the scale of values. That's probably the most important thing. That the glittery of the world has gone and proved to be just vanity. And only things which can nurture the heart truly will appear as a decisive, correct moves in our life. So bring your topic, bring your decision under this perspective. You do the reflection like imagining yourself 90, 95 years old, but do it very strongly, like real. You know, that's the central necessity of this reflection. Lying on the deathbed, the powers of the life has gone, the body is definitely ending this period of life, but the mind is still clear, not creating new things so much, rather that the events of the ending life now are presenting itself for a review. You know, this is what usually happens when people are dying. Different situations, different events of the life, from the childhood up to that particular stage. Seeing it all in a new light, and that's actually the most valuable things of this reflection, that you are assuming kind of a spiritual scale of values, and under that perspective, imagine the consequences of this decision and how it feels, and the consequences and the probable qualities of life when you take this decision. And what may happen that you will decide for a step which will not necessarily bring more pleasure and easiness in our life, but you will see, you will never regret that decision. That's the important thing. And perhaps this kind of reflection will end up with the decision after the retreat. I will call this person, I will ask for thorough talking the things through, and in the atmosphere of openness and friendliness we will come out to certain decision. But for the time now, this is now put on a marginal spot, and I can continue my practice. There is another conceptual activity going in our mind, and that's the commentator, as if sitting on our shoulder, basically looking parallel with the mindfulness on that what is happening, commentating all the time, complaining about everything, judging everything, just chatter. You can try to become aware of it, apply the classic Vipassana tools, but usually it will not be very successful. The best experience is just to ignore it. When you will come out of the thoughts, this will be also the instance which will shut up. So we are dealing a little bit different with this inner monologue, dialogue, chatter. So the very good kind of a situation in the meditation Vipassana is when we can become fully aware of the thoughts. In the beginning, still we are coming back to the primary object. Every time we've got clearly aware of the thinking, usually it doesn't continue for a long time, and we have the possibility to come back to the primary meditation object. But later on, the instruction is even not to come back to the primary meditation object, just to open the mind, and soon after another phenomena will occur. Become aware of that phenomena, how it begins, how it subsides, becoming aware of the emotional colors, happiness, unhappiness, boredom, inspiration, sublimity, or even the centeredness of the mind, in the middle of all these. So these are the different stages in the progress of Vipassana clarity. At the end, let me just drop few comments about the second, I call it the second level of concept, this non-verbal concept. Because all the things I was talking before, you could say in which language these thoughts were taking place. You could not say about the pictures in which language they were taking place, but you could say about thinking. If you are multilingual, hopefully you are not lazy, you speak quite a number of languages, hopefully, so you can say in which language that particular thought was thought. that's the sign of the first or the full concept. The second level concepts are only notions. Before it becomes a language, there is already contents in your mind, conceptual contents, but it is not developed into panyati, into name, into word, into thought. The classical is the concept, second level of concept of time. You know, early, late, past, future. You know, these are notions in the mind which are not necessarily developed into language. Directions of space, in front, in the back, up or down. You know, also the idea of familiarity or strangeness or neediness or usability or non-usability, friendliness or unfriendliness. You know, these are just notions in the mind, having a very concrete contents, not necessarily language. You may understand it even better when I mention the so-called telepathic communication. You know, this is non-verbal communication between entities of different language, and still they can communicate quite some concrete contents. So, still being a concept. So now, concluding with general good advice is how to deal with wandering mind, with the thoughts in our mind in a general scope. One of the wonderful is to smile at the thoughts coming again and again into the clarity of our meditation, depriving us of the clarity of awareness. Instead of developing kind of a resentment or anger again, it's much better to smile. You know, don't pour benzene into fire. So it is sometimes compared to an old man, old woman in the park, sitting on a bench in the sunshine, watching the playground, children playing with the sand, you know, building castles. And the old person is a little bit innerly relaxed and smiling. You stepped into my castle, you know, children having their quarrel. You are just smiling about it. So that's a very wholesome attitude and awareness of the thoughts at the same time. Another case, I remember I was years in a Swiss monastery, high up in the mountains, wonderful surrounding. And there was a rock, very steep, there is a rock, high mountain on the side of the monastery, and there is a cable car going up there. This high rock is used by paragliders, people jumping with the parachute, because this rocks, very steep rock, is exposed to the morning sun, and it gets warm, so that in the afternoon you have a wonderful thermic upgoing wind, which can keep the people hours circling in the, even gaining altitude. So there is a little cable car going up on this mountain, and so from the balcony, sometimes drinking tea, we could observe the base station, how it is there. It was about 150 meters, 200 meters in front of the monastery. You could see it quite clearly. And then the red cabin arrived at the base. the doors open, the people get in, the doors closes, and the cabin starts to go up, far away, vanishing from the sight. So the comparison came. Oh yes, in the meditation, so often we are doing the same. We are developing mindfulness, that would be the base station of the telepheric. Then a very colorful, interesting idea comes. The door gets open. You know, this sucking gravity to go in is there. We get in, the door closes, and the bubble starts to go with us far away, over 7 mountains, 7 valleys. We are lost for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So this is the wrong way to meditate. And the correct way would be to be, let's say, 50 meters, 70 meters from the base station, so that we see clearly the mental bubble coming. Very interesting, inviting idea. The doors get open. We can feel the sucking power of that idea. We resist. We observe. We are ever even of the sucking. So that the door closes and the bubble goes a little bit and dissolves, that we are again with the base station, with the primary meditation object. So that would be the correct way to practice Vipassana, formal meditation. So lots of talking, lots of example, lots of advices, and one of the important part of this talking was to make it clear that there are lots of things, very wholesome things from the Vipassana practice which we can and we should carry over into our everyday life. Especially the knowledge that we don't need to be the slaves of our thoughts, that we can just watch them and let them be, so that they dissolve. Also, the very clear advice from the Buddha, actually the mindfulness during our everyday life, is different from the mindfulness which we are developing in intensive practice. Intensive practice has the luxury that we can really go to the minute details of that what is happening, and staying detached, just observing things. This is not what this attitude we can apply only partially in our everyday life. No, we have to become involved with the things in everyday life, in the family. So let's be clear that the mindfulness recommended in the scriptures is the mindfulness of, especially of the quality of the mental contents. The comparison from the scripture is the gatekeeper, inviting the good visitors and preventing to enter the uninvited visitors. You know, to develop the wholesomeness in our mind and prevent to develop negativities in our mind. That's a very important part of the Dhamma, and the everyday life is an enormous opportunity to develop this purity of mind. And only in some kind of limited time periods we can go to the retreat-like mindfulness, especially when we are alone with ourselves. The bathroom, that's a big invitation, you know, cleaning our teeth, all the movements, all the touchings, all the mental contents, our toilet, definitely. Sometimes recommending the going up the stairs, going down the stairs, doing small walking meditation opportunity. You know, so many times a day we go up or down, usually alone. So instead of being full of this mental chatter, to wake up to the clarity of mind, connecting with the free-flowing mind. Perhaps when we are waiting on a refuge for the streetcar, you know, just standing and being aware of the standing, or a little walking up and down, you know. Many people do it. nothing especially apparent that, oh, he's meditating. No. Well, using the time. When we are already riding the streetcar or the train, that's usually opportunity, instead of gazing into the newspaper, you know, to get the fresh garbage from the news. Better to use it for the little metta meditation, developing friendliness and, you know, brightening the mind with these beautiful qualities of mind. That's Dhamma in the daily life. So, many advices for our practice of meditation. Wishing lots of success.